Good afternoon and welcome to CFB Graph's Quick Hits Week 6. Jamie, I am glad to be here with you, my friend Jamie Plunkett of Frogs Insider podcast of internet fame, TCU baseball coverage, and so much more. Jamie, how are you today?
Man, I'm vibing. We're so close to the weekend. We've got some really good Thursday night and Friday night football this week. Pretty dope. Leading into a very interesting schedule on Saturday. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It warmed my heart. I think I tweeted this yesterday. I was looking at some of these games and thinking like, man, all right, when are we going to have football? And you texted me that I think you had seen something that said yesterday was the last day without a football game until like Thanksgiving. So we got it rolling,
Yep.
but that mostly means that we get Conference USA in the midweek starting back next week as well, which is just a
Yes.
gift from the heavens above and certainly something that we should celebrate. But we do get a little Conference USA tonight with Sam Houston and UTEP, and then a little Sun Belt with Texas State and Troy would be a lot of fun. Jamie, what we are doing here on this show, on this little quick show, and you can tell I'm caffeinated here, is that I'm hyped up. We're going to try to pound 30 minutes worth of content here and just say, hey, we're interested in college football. We're making some paper trades. We're using the betting lines as just a way to talk about football and put our opinions down. So if you want to join us, follow us on BetStamp. I'm at Stats Award. Jamie is at Frog Preacher. We're both committed to the brand. You can follow us on BetStamp and kind of see how we're doing as we're tracking these, but just talking through the slates and some of our favorite plays, how we've done this and how we'll do this again as we're pulling up NCAAinsiders.com, also known as CFB Graphs 2.0, where we've got the schedule and we'll just kind of hop through some games, talk about some plays we like. Jamie, I'm pulling up my plays on BetStamp here, but I want to ask you where you want to go first. Do you have action on anything tonight or tomorrow night?
I have already logged, I believe, 18 picks on BetStamp for this weekend.
Let's
So
go.
we are up to our eyes in picks. Hey, I'll tell you this though, Parker. You and I were both 6-1 on the show last week. I was 9-1 on BetStamp last week. I'm digging myself out of the hole I set for myself in weeks 1 and 2. We're on a heater. We're not walking away from the proverbial table. Let's start with the game that I'm looking forward to tomorrow night on Friday. Syracuse at UNLV. Gonna be a
Love it.
banger, I think. Look, so as some of y'all know, I do cover TCU. I am a beat writer for TCU, and Sonny Dykes, TCU's head coach, was asked about Matt Sluka and UNLV this week, just kind of asking for his general thoughts on redshirting in the middle of the year like that. And he had a comment that I thought was pretty funny, not only for that situation, but just generally for college football. He goes, sometimes you find out pretty quickly how replaceable you are.
Yeah.
And I think Matt Sluka is finding out how replaceable he is in UNLV's offense right now because Haj Malik Williams went crazy against Fresno State last week as they won, I think, like 59-14. And I think he's going to present some really interesting challenges for this Syracuse defense. I will say this, though. I think Syracuse is the best team pretty clearly that UNLV will have played this year, and I'm very looking forward to seeing how this all plays out.
Yeah, and how much of last week was kind of a chip on your shoulder? I'd love to see UNLV turn into this hating ass UNLV team. Can they sustain that throughout the season? Maybe. Jamie, the thing that's so interesting about it is like the defense is legitimately good here. They're 17th in EPA per play, as you can see right here. They got some Power 5 guys. Jalen Catalon, they're bad, kind of being the quarterback. The defense has been so good for them, and clearly they hit on those, I think, 4 or 5 defensive transfers that they brought in and really shored up that defensive unit. You can kind of see in the stats how replaceable the quarterback is by these two stats here. They're first in starting field position on offense, which is a testament to the defense and the special teams, certainly. But then second, they're 125th in rush rate over expected. They're running the ball. They're absolutely running the ball. They're not slinging around a lot. I think we've talked about, and I've talked about in other places, is this they got to the conference championship and had no more gas last year. So they're trying to establish the run and kind of hold on to those explosive plays. Or is this, hey, this is just how we're going to scheme it up and make it work? I think we'll see more from Ricky White. Syracuse being the best team they see, I wonder how much that factors in and whether they can do more than just, kind of dial up explosives for him, but find some consistent success in the pass game as well as Haj gets a little more comfortable. And they know, there's no indecision about, hey, do we run this kind of offense or this kind of offense? They know they're running the Haj offense. This opened at 4.5, loved it, got on it very early. Don't love it. You can see right here, I've got it about 7. So staying away with 6 there. But earlier in the week, I think this one opened a little bit too close, but absolutely will be one that I am keyed in on all tomorrow night.
Absolutely. I am on UNLV at 6.5, so we're hoping for the touchdown win. I'm also on the over in this game, over 58. I'm intrigued. I think that Kyle McCord is the best quarterback UNLV has seen, so it's going to be a really fun test for that defense. Not sure if the over is actually going to hit, but I do love points on a Friday night generally. And here's a fun Ricky White split for you, Parker, because I was looking at this earlier. In their two games against Utah Tech and Fresno State, Ricky White has 15 catches for 238 yards and 5 touchdowns. In their two games against Power Four opponents, he's got 5 catches for 15 yards and no touchdowns. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if Ricky White can step it up against a Power Four team on Friday night.
Wondering about the dogness of the secondary receiving options for UNLV. If they can bracket Ricky White, what can they do? We'll see how they scheme him up. We know our guy Brennan Marion likes to make the offense fun. I think that that makes a lot of sense to be on there. Any of these other weeknight games? I was going to go to Saturday because I'm not as excited about a couple of these. I think Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State. I don't want to talk about a lot. I think Jacksonville State's going to win that one by a whole lot, and fading Kennesaw State is good, but I don't think we'll pull that one up. Why don't we talk about the troops? Why don't we talk about Army? I'll play one kind of sick game here. Army's kind of absolutely rolling, Jamie. Bryson Carson Daly, as ESPN is calling him, host of TRL, is just excellent at the quarterback position for them. They're super, super, super efficient on offense. You can see in that dropback rate they're 7th in EPA per dropback, 134th in rush rate over expected, first in the nation at points per quality possession. Jamie, when the Army Black Knights cross your 40, they are by God scoring a touchdown. And I love that ruthless efficiency. We saw them just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze Temple last week. Now Tulsa comes in, Tulsa being a decidedly unfun team, 125th in the nation in EPA per play margin. I'm all over Army here. I think the Black Knights train is rolling. I'm happy to be a part of it and going to keep backing them the entire season. I see a 10.5 locked in on Betstamp.
I have not done anything on this game yet. I've spent that entire time while you were talking trying to think of a troops joke, but I couldn't come up with one fast enough. So, Army's going to roll. I love what they've been doing on offense so far this year. They've looked pretty solid defensively as well, and Tulsa's not going to be a team that's going to break their defense down. So, Army and the points makes a ton of sense right here.
If you were going to be able to do anything against Army's defense, it would be through the pass. The secondary is relatively weak, but buddy, Tulsa does not look like they're the team to do it. We don't have to stay long on that one. Let's get to some more fun games. Jamie, you have thoughts on Missouri, Texas A&M?
I do.
I believe you texted me about 2 seconds after lines opened on Sunday that you had locked one in on this game. Where were you feeling? I think we very much agree.
I was feeling Mizzou money line. This is the second week in a row that I've been confused about how Texas A&M had either such a wide spread in their favor or just any favorability in this game whatsoever. I took Arkansas last week and the points and ended up cashing out on that bet. I am going to take Mizzou money line in this one. I like Marcel Reed. I do. I want to say that. I think he's done a great job protecting the football. He hasn't thrown an interception yet. He isn't completing passes at a terribly great rate, but he is doing what he needs to do to make the offense work. And Texas A&M can just do the whole, hey, Le'Veon Moss, go do your thing bit. And it seems to work for their offense. But I think Missouri defensively is much tougher than anything Texas A&M has seen so far this year, and that includes Notre Dame. I really am buying into this Mizzou defense. Yeah, I'm here, man. I'm doing the thing. I'm high on Missouri. Missouri, if it wasn't for Tennessee, Missouri would be my SEC wagon this year. I really like Luther Burden on offense. I think the defense is legit, and I think they're going to show the world why against Texas A&M this week. And so I couldn't get on that Mizzou money line fast enough.
Yeah, Luther Burden is second to Theo Weiss in team targets this season, and I think that really speaks to what they've done on offense starting out this season, which is not more than they had to. I mean, they were a little bit uncomfortable. They got Paviad. They're a little bit uncomfortable with Boston College. But Jamie, what do those two teams have that Texas A&M does not have? An established veteran dual threat quarterback who can make you pay with improvisation. Don't know that A&M has that per se. And so I certainly like it. Jamie, I'll ask you one question about this because I thought you broke that down well, and I share your sentiment, money line and points. I logged both of those in Betstamp here. Do you regret those decisions given what Missouri students and players have spent all week doing, which is namely saying Kyle Field is not that hard of a place to play at, and we don't think it's that loud?
No, I don't, because I've been to Kyle Field. I agree with Missouri students. It's not as loud as it could be. A&M fans, get your stuff together, because every time you hype up a game about being super loud at home, you end up losing. Just look at Notre Dame earlier this year. So maybe bring some noise and bring a win for once.
Would be interesting to see. But yeah, I like Missouri. I think Baker is definitely a big loss, but they've normalized well. And shout out to Nate Noel, a transfer from App State who got out of a bad situation and has been doing great for them, putting up in a small sample better numbers than Schrader did last year. So very, very fun, big SEC matchup there. Jamie, where do you want to go next?
Take me to a game that I'm very much looking forward to for grit reasons: Rutgers, Nebraska.
Ooh, love this. Very interested in this. Reminder that I am on the new college football graphs 2.0 ncaainsiders.com. You can get all the stat previews up there. You can check those out. You can check out some leaderboards, and we're developing new features all the time. Make sure you check those out. As we're talking about this, wow, this number shocks me.
Yes, I am excited about this one for two reasons. There are two potential hammers in this game, and I want to see which one's the actual hammer. Is it Nebraska's defensive line or is it Kyle Minagi? Because they're going to hit each other hard frequently. It's just going to be like two train wrecks happening over and over again, and I want to see who wears down the other first. I am on two picks in this game. I am on the Rutgers money line, and I am on the over. I got the over at 41.5. So big fan of the way both of these teams play. I'm excited for this matchup. They both have had really good seasons to this point, and I think this is gonna whoever ends up coming away with the win here is going to be able to make some noise in the Big Ten overall.
Yeah, I don't know that I had this game preseason pegged necessarily as a pretty intense matchup, but will be interesting to see. I was going to lean Rutgers just because I feel like their style of play and chaos can lean on Nebraska a little bit. You get low total here, and maybe they can keep it close. But I'm worried because it's pretty clear Washington outplayed them, and I don't think the style of ball that Rutgers is playing is certainly sustainable. Plus, I do like that Nebraska defensive line, but you look at what they've done here: 45th in EPA per rush for Rutgers, 16th in EPA per rush allowed for Nebraska. That is opponent adjusted somewhat, but man, that is you wonder how that is going to hold. You also look at the other side of the ball. Rutgers' run defense has been very bad. And can Nebraska kind of exploit that, give Dylan Raiola a little bit of room to go find his guys behind a rushing attack? Look at the early downs numbers for Nebraska's offense, 23rd in the nation compared to Rutgers' 84th overall. So should be a fun game with offense. I do think that I am scared enough of both of these teams to stay away entirely. I would lean Rutgers. I don't like my numbers. I hate them right here. But I can totally understand that.
Look, I've seen a lot of Nebraska this year. I was up there for the Nebraska-Colorado game. I watched the entire game and that where they fell apart in overtime against Illinois. When you make Dylan Raiola uncomfortable, excuse me, that offense tends to stall out.
He's a freshman
And I
quarterback.
think,
He's going to make
and I
mistakes.
think,
He's going to have to
yeah,
learn how to process. Yeah.
and I think Rutgers has the dogs to do it
Yeah,
defensively.
I see that. I see that disruption on offense kind of is the linchpin for Nebraska there. All right, let's keep moving and talk about some of these bigger matchups. I think we'll go to Tennessee, Arkansas next because again, I'm going to back Tennessee in a situation where I feel like the opposing offense just cannot keep up at all. If you look at Arkansas's drop back passing game, Jamie, as fun as Taylon Green is, 87th in the nation, negative EPA per play. Tennessee's defense has been absolutely fierce. I would say that Tennessee's defensive backfield is actually the biggest problem on that team, but it's not showing in their passing efficiency numbers because that front seven is so ferocious. That pass rush is so disruptive. We saw what Nick Scourton did to Arkansas last week. I think that with Tennessee having the offense that they do, plus this disruptive front seven, Arkansas is going to crumble a little bit. It does pain me to say that, Jamie, but I think
Yes.
looking at the matchups here, looking at how good Tennessee's defense has been, I've got this one Tennessee in a landslide. Doesn't care about home field advantage in Fayetteville. I'm going to back the Vols here. I think I locked this in last at 13 and a half was where I went. So under that 14, under 2 touchdowns, like that a whole bunch.
Yeah, I'm on 13.5 Tennessee as well. Taylon Green's going to be running in a very unfun way for Arkansas all day Saturday. And you're right, as someone who was calling the Hogs from a very early age, it does pain me to say that Tennessee is just in a way better place as a program right now than the Razorbacks. And they still have, the Volunteers do, one of the lowest blitz rates in the country because their defensive line is so good. And it just continues to blow my mind that they are generating so much pressure with four guys against these really supposedly very strong opposing offensive lines. I'm so impressed by Tennessee all the way around so far this year. I do think they're a wagon, like I said earlier in the show, and I'm going to ride them out until they prove me wrong.
Yeah, absolutely there. And I think, yeah, you get an extra body that matters just so much. With not being able to blitz there, I think Tennessee is the clear right side, and so we'll join you. We're both going to back the Vols there. Looking at time, good. We're at 15 minutes, man. We're cruising. This is great.
Vibing.
You want to get weird for a little bit? You want to go to a sicko
Take
game,
me
or you want to go somewhere big? Where are you going?
take me to a sicko game. Take me to your sicko game of the week.
Okay, let's talk about speaking of things that make me very sad. Here's what I'll say diplomatically. I think that a Power Four school is going to get a really good offensive coordinator soon in Will Hall. I think that he's done a good job of trying to get the offense right at Southern Miss. I think just some injuries with the quarterback pipeline really disrupted his kind of path, and they just haven't been able to get right. Sometimes they were playing Frank Gore at quarterback just because of injuries, and man, it's a really tough situation there. I think Louisiana, on the other hand, really solid offensively. That front, I think, was very solid against Tulane. We saw a couple weeks ago, they're 48th in EPA per play margin. This offense is 26. Jamie, look at the red on the Southern Miss side. Ooh. Look at the hundreds and 30s across the board. It's a rough situation. That roster is depleted. I think Louisiana takes this one going away. I've got this by about 20. I think that I have it locked in at on bet stamp at 16. Yeah, 16 right there. And so I think you get that 15 and a half at some places still. I think that Louisiana is going to be able to name their number. I think they're going to be able to overwhelm. Might be a little dicey early, but I do think that they will be able to press on them and pull away absolutely in the second half. So that's my kind of bad game of the week there.
Yeah, I this is not a game that I will invest much time watching, because, like you said, Southern Miss is just in terrible shape right now. This is darker and deeper red across the board than Tulsa, who we looked at earlier. I mean, this is I don't want to shame another program, but this is like Kent State, Kennesaw State levels of rough right now for Southern Miss.
It is not great. They are yeah, they're playing football, man. I think that's the best we can say. That's the sicko one I had locked in. Why don't we get a little Big 12 here?
Yes.
Another one I had, if you want to think about your matchup for after this one too. Despite the fact that BYU left the door wide open, despite the fact that Baylor could not actually walk through that door, I do think that this is an entirely different game if Baylor is in Waco here for this Iowa State game. I think that because you're going up to the Cyclones, because we're looking at a 5-0 start for the first time ever for Iowa State. Well, first time since it matters for Iowa State. Baylor has had two kind of crushing losses. Last week did really feel like Aranda gave the halftime speech, saved my job. Let's get ourselves up on the mat. They couldn't close the door. I feel like we're going to be talking about the Q word a little bit more with Baylor here as they struggle overall. 96th in EPA per rush is not going to do it for a Baylor football team. Even as they bring in Spav and they want to pass more, they're still rush heavy team and they're just not efficient doing it. They brought in Sawyer Robinson. He's got some juice, but really I don't think it's as much his juice as I do. I think it's easy to just chuck it to Monterey Baldwin, who's super fast and can catch the ball. And that's a one-trick pony. I think we'll see how Matt Campbell responds to that. I'm pretty optimistic about the defense there. And what I like about Matt Campbell is that they have scored some points this week or this year against Arkansas State, for instance, and then they scored late against Houston. Abu Sama's yards before contact numbers have been pretty poor this season compared to his last couple of seasons, but they played Iowa. And so I think that skewed some of it. I think he is just back to form and is really exceptional. And Iowa State, now that we've recalibrated expectations for Matt Campbell, we're back to good for Iowa State. I love backing them here. I think between Becht, Higgins, Noel, and Sama, they're just super hard to defend. Jamie, if this O-line stays healthy, I think we're talking about a Big 12 title contender here in Iowa State.
Oh, fully. I mean, at this point, it would be a little odd if they weren't in contention late in November for that. especially with how wide open we've seen the Big 12 actually is through the first 5 weeks of the year, with Utah already losing, Kansas State already dropping a game, two of those kind of front runners coming into the year. But I think your numbers really tell the story here, Parker. Baylor's not a good rushing team. They depend on the passing game quite a lot. It's a one-trick pony, and we've seen Iowa State's secondary play stellar football for the majority of the year. I saw something earlier today, actually, that Baylor fans are touting that Sawyer Robertson has the second best QBR in the Big 12 so far this year. He's played like 7 quarters of football, so maybe we tone that down just a little bit until we get a larger sample size from him. And I
Jamie,
don't
can
think the
you
sample size is going to be very good this week.
it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Can you do me a favor? Can you Google, while I get us to another game here, can you Google whether Sawyer Robertson or Garrett Green has more passing attempts this year?
Yes, I will do that. Also, I'm on Iowa State minus 12.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
for the purposes of
for hashtag locking it in there. Yeah. Love that. I'm inclined to go back to the SEC here while I sent you to Google, and then we can talk about anything else you want. Look, Ole Miss had a players only meeting. They did that happened. They're clearly unhappy with what happened in Kentucky. They played a ferocious front seven that really shut down their run game and caused all sorts of problems, getting Jackson Dart in trouble. The only thing that really kept Ole Miss in the game is that Kentucky's offense just doesn't have a lot of excitement, doesn't have a lot of burst. Can I interest you in a South Carolina team that has one of the best defensive front sevens and defensive lines in the nation, just absolutely ferocious pass rush, an Ole Miss offensive line that's not great? And can I interest you in Lenora Sellers being fully healthy and back for this team, giving that offense an absolute burst, giving them a ton of reasons to be excited in Columbia? I'm going to go with South Carolina Gamecocks here to cover against Ole Miss. I even like maybe I'll lock in with a little bit of a tiny fraction of a unit. Again, just paper trades, nothing real for me. A tiny fraction of a unit on South Carolina on the money line at home here. I love this spot. I think that Ole Miss can have all the player meetings they want. Their offensive line is what it is. And I think South Carolina is really, really well poised to create a ton of havoc and then capitalize on havoc offensively as Lenora Sellers is back and ready to go.
How quickly do pay-for-play mercenaries give up, Parker? That's my question. Because
insofar as we call them that, but like 1 year guys, you come in, you're saying, "Hey, I came to Ole Miss with a chance to win a championship." That's clearly not going to happen. When am I going to make a business decision? I think we're going to learn about that this week.
I mean, it's too late for a lot of these guys to redshirt, and I think that we see a lot of times, not necessarily just at Ole Miss and not just necessarily in college football, business decisions do get made, and I'm not claiming a lack of character or anything for any of these Ole Miss guys. I think they're all incredibly talented players. But yeah, I'm curious to see how much want to there is after that loss last week, coming into another hostile environment. It's going to be loud. I love South Carolina as well. I'm on them in the points. And also to answer your last question, Garrett Green, 111 pass attempts this year, Sawyer Robertson, 98.
Love that. Love that Garrett Green has started 5 games at this point and Robertson has started one,
two, one,
and he came in relief in the other. So, love that. That's just wonderful. All right, Jamie, looking at time wise here, what do we have? One more game you want to get to, one more play you want to get. Obviously, people can go to BetStamp and see how all the plays do this week. But what else do you want to talk about?
Here's my chaos game of the week, and it's because it starts at 10 o'clock Central Time on Saturday night. Texas Tech traveling to Arizona.
I love this. Love this fun. So much.
Very fun opportunities lie ahead for this football game.
Wow. Another one that surprises me. I have Texas Tech slightly favored.
And I have Texas Tech money line on BetStamp. Here is why. Arizona defensively has not had too much of a test this year. The one test that they've had offensively was Kansas State, and we saw the results of that game. I don't know that Texas Tech necessarily has the defensive horses to do what Kansas State did to Tet McMillan, but I do think that they have the offense to keep up with Arizona. So I'm very excited to see what I expect to be a high-scoring late-night football game on Saturday night. Give me the Texas Tech money line. Give me the over. Give me all the points you could possibly give me in Big 12 After Dark football.
Yeah, I think a ton of points here. And then just look at the rushing. I mean, Texas Tech is relying on Taj Boyd here. 15th in EPA per rush. Arizona's defense is 49th overall. Arizona's defense is 80th in rushing success rate out on defense. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Texas Tech to score. And Arizona, as we've talked about, is a team where the ceiling is super high just because they have Fafita and they have McMillan and can pop off some points, but also their floor is very, very low. If things go wrong, I could see things going very, very wrong. I do like Texas Tech in this spot. Texas Tech, very bad start to the season against Abilene Christian, but they avoided disaster and kept on keeping on. I think that's all all you can do out of a Big 12 team. Would be very interesting to see them and Iowa State end up in the championship. Just two teams that kind of struggled with FCS teams to varying degrees at the beginning of the season. That feels like that's a Big 12 tradition post COVID. Is you've got to have a stupid game to go win the Big 12 conference.
Yeah, we'll see if Colorado has anything to say about that, because they actually seem like they've got some pretty good momentum as well for them. So, but yeah, this is an interesting one for me, just because Texas Tech quietly, their secondary has had some pretty good success against the passing game.
Yep.
And you're right. I think if they can limit Fafita and McMillan, that's gonna do a lot of damage to what Arizona wants to do in this football game. So, give me the Tech money line. I'm going to stay up and watch every single second of this football game on Saturday night because I'm a degenerate. But I'm very, very excited for this game.
Love this. Big 12 out west, Big 12 after dark. Going to be a great game. All right, Jamie, looking at time here, I have a work meeting that I need to go to. So I'm going to go do that, and get out of here. I'm Parker Fleming. You can find me on Twitter at Stats of War. You can find me on BetStamp at Stats of War. That's Jamie Plunkett. You can find him all the same places at Frog Preacher. Again, just log in some paper trades, talking about football. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next week.